Rain had been falling for hours, cold and relentless, turning the shelter yard into a wasteland of puddles and fading paw prints. Inside, the smell of bleach and fear mixed in the air. A black and tan German shepherd lay motionless behind the steel bars, eyes open but spirit gone. His nameplate read Rex, euthanasia scheduled 0900. He didn't bark. He didn't move. He just stared at the floor like he already knew what morning meant. In another part of town, a man was standing in front of his bathroom mirror, hands gripping the sink, eyes that couldn't see staring into the darkness he'd learned to live with. Sergeant Nathan Cole, U.S. Marine, blind since Helmand Province, Afghanistan. He'd survived explosions, shrapnel, and the sound of his brother's last breaths. But nothing haunted him like the silence that came afterward. The world was black now, but the nightmares were always bright. Nathan's world had shrunk to the size of his small apartment. Steps memorized, walls counted, routines unbroken. His counselor had told him that sometimes a service dog could bring light back into the dark. But Nathan didn't believe in light anymore. Not until that morning, when fate, or something that felt like it, led him to the shelter. The door creaked open, and the familiar mix of disinfectant and damp fur hit him like a memory. The volunteer guiding him spoke softly, describing the dogs as they passed. "This one's young. This one's shy. This one's not good with people." Then her tone shifted, quieter, heavier. "This one, his name's Rex, former K9 unit. They're putting him down today." Nathan stopped. Something in those words reached him, deeper than he could explain. Former K9, military, a brother in uniform. A soldier who'd served and been forgotten? He asked to approach the cage. The air was heavy with the metallic scent of fear and rain. Rex lifted his head. For the first time in days he moved, slowly, cautiously, his nails clicking on the wet concrete. He didn't growl, didn't bark. He just stopped inches away from the man kneeling before him, blind eyes meeting broken eyes. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. The shelter noise faded, the rain seemed to pause, and the only sound was the faint rhythm of two survivors breathing the same air. Nathan's lips parted, dry and trembling. He didn't say much. Just one word, quiet, steady, and filled with something the dog hadn't heard in a long time. "Stand." Rex froze. His ears twitched. The muscles in his shoulders stiffened. Slowly, like a soldier remembering his command, he stood. The volunteers gasped. Nathan didn't see it, but he felt it, the sudden warmth against his chest as Rex leaned forward, pressing his forehead into the Marine's hands. And for the first time in years, Nathan smiled. He couldn't see the light, but somehow he felt it returning through the heartbeat of a dog who had once given up, just like him. The dog. They forgot the morning Rex was scheduled to die. The sky wept with him. Rain hammered against the shelter roof, echoing like a ticking clock. Inside his cage, he lay curled in the corner, ribs faintly showing through his fur. Once he had been a legend, a military K9 who'd tracked wounded soldiers and sniffed out danger before it came close. But after his handler was killed in action, something inside Rex had broken. He stopped eating, stopped responding. The shelter called it trauma-induced aggression. They never saw the trembling at night, or the way his eyes darted toward every door as if waiting for someone who'd never return. When the vet arrived that morning, the syringe was ready. "He's gone too far," someone whispered. But fate had a strange sense of timing. Outside, a black car pulled into the lot, and a man stepped out slowly, guided by a white cane. Sergeant Nathan Cole, blind Marine, decorated for bravery, lost in silence since the blast that stole his sight. He didn't know why he'd come here, only that something inside him whispered, "Go." When Nathan's hands brushed the cold steel of Rex's cage, the dog's breathing changed. It was as if one broken soldier recognized another. And though no one else heard it in that moment, the war inside both of them paused. A command remembered. When Nathan spoke that single word, "stand," it wasn't just a command. It was an echo from another life. Rex's ears flicked, muscles trembling under his scarred coat. Something old stirred, a ghost of discipline, of loyalty, of purpose. For the first time since his handler's death, he obeyed. The volunteers froze in disbelief. The vet lowered her syringe. And Nathan, though blind, felt the moment, a silent miracle unfolding through the vibration of breath and heartbeat. The shelter director hesitated. That dog's not safe, she warned. But Nathan's calm voice cut through the tension. Neither am I, he said softly. He signed the adoption forms by touch, his fingers tracing the edges of the paper like a soldier remembering the shape of his life. When the door opened, Rex didn't hesitate. He walked beside Nathan, step for step, soldier to soldier, into the rain. The drive home was silent, filled only with the hum of the engine and the slow rhythm of trust forming in the space between fear and faith. That night, as Nathan slept, he woke to a soft whine near his bed. Rex was there, watching over him, head resting on his prosthetic leg. The Marine reached down, hand trembling, and whispered, "You're home now, brother." And for the first time since the war, the nightmares stayed quiet. Scars that see without eyes days turned into weeks, and a rhythm began to grow between them. Nathan learned to navigate not just his home, but the invisible bond that tied him to Rex. Each sound mattered: the click of claws on tile, the gentle huff of breath near his knee, the low growl that warned him of things unseen. Together they learned to move through darkness as if it were their shared terrain. But healing was never straight. One afternoon, during a routine walk, the noise of a motorcycle backfiring shattered the air. Rex's instincts took over. Ears flat, body rigid, a growl ripping from his chest. Nathan froze. In that sound he heard his own past, the blast, the screams, the sudden silence that followed. He dropped to his knees, voice shaking as he called Rex's name. But the dog didn't respond. He was lost in the fog of memory. Neighbors panicked. Someone called animal control. By the time they arrived, Nathan was still kneeling in the street, whispering words that were more prayer than command. Slowly Rex inched back, trembling, eyes wide with confusion and guilt. "It's okay," Nathan whispered, wrapping his arms around the dog's neck. "We both get scared sometimes." The animal control officer watched silently, then nodded once. "You two saved each other," he said quietly. "Don't stop now." Nathan didn't. He couldn't. He'd already lost one war. He wasn't losing this one. The edge of death, it was supposed to be a normal day. Nathan and Rex had been training with a local canine therapist. Slow, careful work to rebuild trust and obedience. The progress was real, but trauma is unpredictable. That afternoon, a sudden thunderstorm rolled over the city. The sound cracked like gunfire. Rex panicked, bolting into traffic. Tires screamed, horns blared, and Nathan, blind and terrified, followed the sound of his dog's cries into the street. He didn't think, he just moved. A passing truck swerved, missing him by inches. Nathan stumbled forward, hands reaching, voice raw. "Rex!" Then silence. The next thing he heard was the weak, whimpering breath of his companion lying still on the asphalt. At the emergency vet, the room was sterile and heavy. The doctor's voice was cautious, compassionate. "He's lost a lot of blood. Internal injuries. We'll try, but it doesn't look good." Nathan sat beside the table, hand resting on Rex's paw, whispering fragments of commands, stories, and apologies. Hours passed in a blur of beeping monitors and whispered prayers. Then, against all odds, Rex's heart stabilized. The vet looked astonished. "I don't know what kept him going," she said softly. "Nathan did." He leaned close and whispered the same word that had saved them both once before. "Stand." The light. They found weeks later, the world seemed softer. The scars were still there, on fur, on skin, on soul, but something had changed. Nathan and Rex trained again, slower this time, steadier. The VA had offered Nathan a position mentoring other wounded veterans about service animals. He accepted. Every morning he stood in the same park where Rex had once broken down, sunlight warming his face, leash in hand. Sometimes kids would ask why his eyes looked different. He'd smile and say, "Because I don't need them to see anymore." When he gave that same command, "Stand," Rex would rise tall beside him, proud, strong, alive. The shelter that once condemned Rex hung a photo of the two of them on its wall. Two soldiers. One miracle. Visitors stopped and stared, many wiping away quiet tears. At night, Nathan would sit on his porch, fingers tracing Rex's collar tag. "You found me," he'd whisper, "when I couldn't find myself." The dog would press his head into the Marine's chest, the rhythm of their breathing merging with the calm hum of crickets and wind. And though Nathan's world remained dark, it was no longer empty. In that darkness lived loyalty, redemption, and the kind of light no one could ever take away. Because sometimes, The word that saves a life isn't long or poetic. It's a simple order between two broken soldiers who refuse to fall again. Stand.